Tracking, alerting, protecting. This is WKYT News at 5:30.
A downtown Williamsburg city block is damaged but not destroyed by an overnight fire.
Coming up, we'll tell you about a UK research project working to keep birds away from airports.
This woman's good intentions led dozens of families into foreclosure. What went wrong? Coming up.
WKYT News at 5:30 starts now. We start with an update on a breaking news alert we've been tracking out of Madison County. The Richmond Fire Department has knocked down a large fire.
The fire was at the Country Hearth Inn off the Eastern Bypass, and right now firefighters are looking for hot spots. A lot of damage was done, as you can see here. We're told that only one person was on that side of the motel that caught fire, but everyone had to leave the building. No one, we understand, was injured. And another fire, this one last night in Whitley County, damaging some businesses there.
Still, several Williamsburg business owners are counting their blessings today. The fire broke out at a flower shop. It was quickly spotted and put out. WKYT's Phil Pendleton tells us how that quick action kept the fire from spreading. It's our top story at 5:30.
Just after 9 Sunday night, and Greg Pruitt had just stopped into his flower shop on Main Street, and he says everything appeared to be fine. But just after 1 o'clock Monday morning, the county coroner was returning from a death call when he saw flames and smoke and quickly called for help.
Had it not been for the prompt response of the fire department, we could have lost the entire building very quickly.
Randall Parton is the secretary for the Masonic Lodge upstairs, which only suffered some smoke damage, but downstairs,
That hurts to see them experiencing this kind of loss as well.
not much could be saved at the Williamsburg flower shop.
You know, work with a lot of people through their losses of deaths and different things, you know, so we do a lot of work here, you know.
Now their community is seeing them go through a loss of their own.
And most of it's either pretty much been affected by the smoke or the fire or water once.
They can rebuild and go on, and other businesses are here to see another day, counting their blessings.
They're talking 5 minutes or less. This entire part of the building could have erupted in flames.
The flower shop is in talks with another property owner to relocate until the damage is repaired. In Whitley County, Phil Pendleton, WKYT.
The Williamsburg fire chief says the cause of the fire is under investigation, but he does not believe it was intentionally set. Still a lot of cleanup needed from an early morning fire that destroyed a Lexington family's home. The fire started around 3 on Vale Drive. That's off Harrodsburg Road near the Jessamine County line. Extra crews were called to the fire for more manpower because many of the firefighters were worn out from battling the flames. It took them a few hours to get that fire under control.
My bedroom is directly across from theirs, and I heard the popping sound, and I jumped up and ran to my window, and I saw this house just ablaze with fire.
No one inside the home or any firefighters were injured. Investigators believe the fire started in the garage.
In our county-by-county coverage at 5:30, we're tracking stories in Madison and Marion counties, and we begin in Madison County. That's where a 25-year-old Detroit, Michigan man has been arrested in connection with a 2012 shooting. Back in November of 2012, Richmond police were investigating a shooting on Meadowlark Drive. A woman had been shot in her leg. At that time, 2 men were arrested for the shooting. Then last year, a warrant was issued for the arrest of Tony McQueen. Officers arrested McQueen Saturday when they were responding to a burglary on Charles Claiborne Court. And in Marion County, deputies are searching for a Tennessee man accused of stabbing 2 people at a home early this morning. Deputies tell us that William Newton went to his ex-girlfriend's house on Sulphur Springs Road about 3:30 this morning. Police say that Newton stabbed the woman inside the home once and a man inside the home 3 times. The woman was treated at the scene. The man was flown to the University of Louisville. Newton is 5'7", weighs about 160 pounds. Another beautiful fall day around the bluegrass.
Yes, but we are in for some changes. Meteorologist Jim Caldwell is tracking them. Jim?
Yeah, you better believe. Yes, we'll be tracking a few showers out there today and big changes coming our way toward the end of the week. And I'm talking about solid changes where daytime highs fall, about 15, 20 degrees. So that's a big time chill compared to where we are because we're in the 80s out there in many locations today. Mid and upper 70s showing up out in eastern parts of Kentucky because of the cloud cover and a few showers that have popped up. You go out toward Floyd County, and that's where we're actually tracking one of those showers. you folks out there. This had a little lightning with it earlier and some heavier rain, but it continues to dwindle and work its way more toward the south and east. And eventually it gets right on out of here. You can see also the cloud cover doing the same exact thing. A little batch of clouds working its way through northeastern and eastern Kentucky, continues to sag toward the south, and eventually it's completely out of here, meaning we end up with clear skies out there tonight. Very nice through midweek with temperatures running in the low, maybe even some mid-80s out there. Gets a little windy and on the warm side by Thursday, but that's just a sign of the changes that are coming. Those changes, that's the cool air. I'll have much more coming up for you here in just a few minutes.
This is a pretty astounding number. According to the FAA, bird strikes cost more than $600 million in repairs and damages to airplanes nationwide every year.
A University of Kentucky student is researching an unorthodox way to try to reduce the number of those strikes. WKYT's Mike Linden talked to the student about her research in a story that's new at 5:30.
A UK graduate student is researching a type of grass from New Zealand that could work to keep birds away from airports.
UK entomology student Diana Miller is looking into whether a grass variety called jackal, native to New Zealand, can deter insects and therefore birds from airports.
So this grass, it's unpalatable to anything that would eat it, and then it would cause them to go, I don't like this. They would learn to avoid it. They would go elsewhere.
The reason why the grass tastes bad to insects is because of a type of fungus within it.
In a sense, because they have a mutualistic relationship, the endophyte fungus living within the grass is like, well, I want to stay alive too. And so they're giving the grass better properties to be able to stay alive longer.
Miller's research is successful. It could help reduce the more than 11,000 reported bird strikes in the United States. The grass is currently not in use at any airports in the U.S., but could be considered as part of wildlife management programs at airports nationwide once the research is complete.
Our experts certainly have to look at everything. Even though it might deter one particular animal, it might attract another. And so it's important when you're looking at wildlife management programs that you take everything into play.
If the project is successful, Miller says that the grass could have many applicable uses outside of airports, including golf courses and even schools. In Lexington, Mike Linden, WKYT.
Miller's research at UK Spindletop Research Farm is the first time the grass has been field tested in North America.
One woman's good intentions and desire for profit led dozens of families into foreclosure. How did it happen? We unravel the fraud.
She saw that there were so many people who wanted to live the American dream, buy a house, who couldn't afford it.
She is Sylvia Thomas Bland, who operated a home renovation business.
She would buy properties, rehab them, and sell them.
At some point, things changed.
She saw people who wanted houses. They couldn't qualify for a loan in a traditional bank, so then she decided she would help these people get loans.
She became a mortgage broker.
She would take all of their information, she would find a lender, and then she would submit whatever the lender wanted to make this loan go through. Sylvia would make it happen.
In most cases, this meant falsifying documents.
She would make whatever the lender wanted, she would make the documents to match. So if these people didn't have any retirement savings or any savings, she would make bank statements, and they looked legitimate. In one case, somebody didn't even have a job, but by the time Sylvia mailed the package or the loan application to the lender, suddenly they had a job making $100,000 a year.
Initially, the scheme was working until it didn't.
After about a year, these people realized they really couldn't afford this house. They couldn't keep up with their payments, and a lot of them started going into foreclosure.
There were more than 50 victims in this case, and the lending institutions involved lost more than $1 million.
Every single person in this case lost their house. So all of them went into foreclosure. Their credit was worse, than when they started. So even if they wanted to buy a house, now they're going to be delayed even more years trying to rebuild their credit.
Postal inspectors advise all consumers to read the fine print on any official document. Also be aware that there are ways to rebuild your credit.
If your credit is bad, work with a professional or work with a local organization that can help you build your credit. Their loss is different. The bank has the monetary loss, whereas the victims have more of an emotional loss, or just a loss of having to start all over again and try to rebuild their lives.
Bland was arrested and sentenced to 2.5 years in prison.
I'm Bill Bryant. Congressman Andy Barr talks about the threat from ISIS, and Senator Mitch McConnell predicts a swift approval for Attorney General Eric Holder's replacement, even though he opposes a quick vote. The bottom line is ahead.
Follow WKYT online at WKYT.com. Join the conversation on Twitter and become a part of the WKYT Facebook family.
Congressman Andy Barr is concerned about how far the U.S. may have to go to defeat ISIS.
And it's up to Kentucky to come up with the money to fund Medicaid in the future. WKYT's Bill Bryant has that and more in the bottom line.
Good evening. Freshman Republican Congressman Andy Barr is running hard for re-election and says he has also had a meeting at the White House about how the U.S. is confronting extremist Islamic terrorists. Barr is supportive of the president's orders for airstrikes and building a coalition to confront ISIS. But he has concerns about setting limits on what U.S. forces may have to do if the situation worsens.
This is a very serious threat to our homeland. It's a threat to our allies. In many respects, this terrorist army is more dangerous than bin Laden's al-Qaeda in August of 2001. They're more numerous. They occupy more territory.
Barr again defended his use of mailings that were sent out from his office at taxpayers' expense. He says people in his district want more communication, and he saved money in other ways in his office to more than make up the difference. Barr faces Democrat Elizabeth Jensen in the November election. The full interview with Barr runs this weekend. Senator Mitch McConnell says he wants to delay a vote on Attorney General Eric Holder's replacement, but the Republican leader predicts that majority Democrats will rush the nominee through right after the election. Democratic Senate challenger Allison Grimes blames McConnell for lengthy confirmation battles in the past. She told CN2 that she hopes America gets an attorney general who will balance law enforcement with citizen rights. The Beshear administration acknowledging that it does not know how much expanded Medicaid will cost Kentucky in the future. More than 300,000 Medicaid-eligible Kentuckians signed up for coverage under the state health care exchange. The federal subsidy will be scaled back in coming years, and Kentucky will have to come up with extra money. The candidates for Richmond mayor and city commission set to appear face-to-face tomorrow evening. The Richmond Chamber of Commerce is sponsoring the forum at the Black Box Theater at the EKU Center for the Arts. Bill Bryant, WKYT.
A Libertarian Senate candidate is suing Kentucky Educational Television over a debate.
Candidate David Patterson has asked a federal judge to order KET to include him in the station's televised debate on October 13th. Republican Senator Mitch McConnell and Democratic challenger Allison Lundergan Grimes have both said they will participate in the KET debate. Patterson is accusing KET officials of excluding him from the debate because of his political views.
We are tracking a couple of showers out in eastern Kentucky, but for the rest of us, it's smooth sailing throughout the entire evening. But big changes are coming. I'll have the very latest forecast coming up for you.
We are still tracking an investigation into shots being fired here on UK's campus last night. We will have new details coming up at 6.
Now, your hour-by-hour forecast with meteorologist Jim Caldwell and First Alert Defender.
It has been a really nice Monday for most of us. A few folks, though, picking up on some shower activity out in eastern Kentucky, and even that starting to disappear from Defender. There you see some spots here in Lexington being one of them, Frankfort, London, and down into the Richmond area. And generally what you're seeing, especially in some of the northern areas, the skies are really starting to clear. But you can still see some of the cloud cover down here along 75 there in the London area. So still holding on to at least a little bit of it. There you see Defender tracking not much in central Kentucky, but that one lone shower for you folks out there in Floyd and also into parts of Pike County now. Trying to cross the border and get close to the city of Pikeville. Very small shower now, starting to really dissipate for you folks. Maybe a couple more trying to develop in that little batch of cloud cover that's working through eastern Kentucky, but that is really all we have because you see the skies are clearing to our north. Except when you go toward the Great Lakes. We have a frontal boundary in position there that's going to make at least a run at Kentucky. And what it might end up doing is it might try to dip and give the folks in northeastern parts of the Commonwealth a few showers. It's a good possibility coming up tomorrow. But most of us, just like today, will stay on the dry and even the sunny side with maybe a few decorative clouds out there. Hour by hour we go. We're looking at 7 o'clock here this evening, and a stray shower still showing up with some of the data there. We go on into the nighttime period and into the day tomorrow, and there you see some of that moisture right along that boundary that might dip into northeastern parts of Kentucky. Again, maybe a stray shower or two, but what's following that system, that's going to be the bigger story as we move forward, because it's a big-time weather player, and it's going to change things up quite a bit for us as well. There you see the area of low pressure, the showers and storms lining up along that. Could be causing some severe weather concerns on Wednesday to our west, and maybe a stronger storm or two once it arrives here as well. We'll take you from Wednesday, Thursday, and into your Friday. That frontal boundary is sweeping across Kentucky, and notice where it is. It's trying to split the Commonwealth into two separate states. At that point, we're talking about the warm air to the east and, of course, the cooler air coming into the west. But the problem is we'll have showers and storms riding along that, so we will see a bit of a dip in our temperatures as well as we go into your Friday, because we will have that cooler air around. And here's basically what happens with it. Our highs, they'll probably drop anywhere from 15 to 20 degrees, and during the nighttime hours, some folks end up in the low 40s. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw maybe a upper 30 or 2 here or there, so that's something we'll watch for as we move forward. Look at those highs, though. We go all the way up into the low, maybe some mid-80s for a few folks, and then we come crashing down, all for the weekend, of course, with showers and thunderstorms leading the way, guys.
Just in time for Keeneland and the UK football game.
A lot of outdoor activities where a mass amount of people are going to be. Yes. Unfortunately, the cool air's coming too.
Okay. Thanks, Jim.
And a couple of problems. One is a crash in the area of Russell Cave in the Circle. Police are in the cleanup stages there. And there's one on North Broadway at I-75. Just had a look at that one. It looks like the left turn lane outbound North Broadway on I-75 is blocked. Also, we're getting into the inbound lane as well on North Broadway, but traffic's getting past that. Just a slight delay. Now back to you in the studio.
To become a WKYT Live driver and download the Waze app, go to WKYT.com and under the News tab, click on Traffic for more information. Rob's next, and the Cats have a big opportunity this weekend.
Well, they sure do. South Carolina coming in. Mark Stoops talks about how the attitude of his team has changed. And John Calipari speaking in Louisville. Will he two-platoon like he did in the Bahamas? Sports is next. Today in Louisville, UK hosting its tip-off luncheon, and John Calipari laying out for the fans some of his strategy for the upcoming season. Cal taking questions from the audience, and with so much talent on the roster, the biggest question, how will all the Wildcats get playing time?
We are going to start the season two-platooning with the two guys that are not in that group being a sub at guard and a sub at big if there's foul trouble, injury, or whatever, so they're included. And I will do it. My hope is we do it throughout the year. And again, no one's ever done this before. Here's what I would tell you. If it's not about those guys, we're playing 8 of these guys. And those other 2 or 3, you're out. But if we're about them and them, all of them eating, this is the only way you can do it. Well, it's never been done before. Well, it's going to be done now.
Mark Stoops' Wildcats took a step in ending their SEC losing streak over the weekend. They could take a much bigger step by pulling an upset of South Carolina Saturday night. The Cats go in off their win over Vanderbilt, while South Carolina was stunned at home by Missouri. Stoops' team has improved, and he said today a lot of it has to do with a change in attitude.
Just the attitude of our team. We're not perfect, but we're vastly improved to when we got here on campus. Just a sign of that is like JoJo, and I pointed that out after the game, but it's true. A guy like him that didn't get his carries throughout the game and just stayed positive on the sideline, staying with it, was locked in, got his opportunity late in the game and did very well. And there's several guys that can learn from that.
Kentucky and South Carolina will go under the lights this weekend. Kickoff is set for 7:30. It's on the SEC Network. And we know now that the following week, October 11th, against Louisiana Monroe, that one will start at noon on the SEC Network. In the next half hour, Stoops talks about Spurrier. Stay with us here on WKYT.